Shalom Aleichem for the 16th of Av. Mishnah Yomi is holding in Bava chapter 4, Mishnayot 4 and 5. Mishnah Daled, Shor shel pikeach, an ox or other animal belonging to a pikeach, a normal functioning person. Shenagach shor shel cheresh shote v'koten chayev. And that damages an animal belonging to a cheresh, that's a deaf mute. And we've explained that someone who is both deaf and mute and unable to communicate, it was assumed they don't have quite the same legal understanding and culpability and development to be on the hook, as we'll see. Or a shote is somebody who's out of their mind. So again, they're not in mensana. They're not in the right frame of mind to protect their animal. V'katan, somebody who's not bar mitzvah. So chayev. So the pikeach has to pay them. But now it's the opposite. Shel chereshot v'katan. If it belongs to one of these class of people who have a certain disability or simply is not old enough yet to properly take care of their animals, shnaga shosh pikeach pater. The animal of one of these people who damages a normal person's animal, they don't pay. Now, the Mishnah continues, shor shel chereshot v'koten shenagach. If an ox belonging to one of these people with a disability or simply a minor is going around actually causing damage, so what do we do? So Beit Din ma'amidin lehem apotropos. The local court sets up for them an apotropos, a legal guardian. Umeidin lahen bifnei apotropos. And people who suffer damage will go and tell the apotropos. Now, the katan or the shota, the cheresh, they're assumed to not be able to communicate properly or to be able to take care of their animal in the first place. But this guardian, the Beit Din, is going to put them on the hook. And there's a discussion in the Rishonim, maybe the people who are damaged, they'll go and get money from the guardian, and then the guardian will go with the permission of Beit Din, permission of the court, and extract it from the estate of these people. And that way, they'll also be able to make this animal a shor muad. If 3 times it causes damage, 3 times they tell the apotropos, and it now has the status of shor muad, and they can collect full damages. Now, the Mishnah adds an interesting wrinkle here. Nitpakeach hacheresh. If the cheresh, the deaf mute, gets opened up, and he's now able to communicate, able to hear and communicate, nishtapa hashote, the person who was out of their mind or mentally incompetent, is normal again. Higdil akatan, the katan grows up. He's now bar bat mitzvah and is responsible. Hazar litamuto, divrei Rabbi Meir. According to Rabbi Meir, the animal goes back to being a tam. Even if they had warned the apotropos, the guardian, 3 times, and it was a shor muad, it goes back to being a tam. It's as if it has a brand new owner, like it was sold. Rabbi Yossi Omer Harei Hu Bechazkat. Rabbi Yossi says if it was warned 3 times under the care of the guardian, and now the katan grows up, well, it's already a shor muad. It's not really a change of ownership here. The Mishnah concludes, shor ha'itstadin. Itstadin is the stadium. Stadium is where the Romans, they didn't play football back then. They didn't even play American football. They were murdering each other and training animals to fight and kill human beings, God forbid. So the shorsha itzdin, the Romans or other barbarians or horrible people had trained these animals to murder. Eino chayev mita. We don't actually put such an animal to death. We're going to find out. We've mentioned an animal that kills a human being is put to death. It's chayev mita, like the Beit Din will sentence him to death. He'll get a death penalty. But a shor itzdin, he's not acting out of his own accord. He's simply been trained to do this kind of violent activity. Shnamar, because the pasuk actually says ki yigach v'lo shigichuhu. The pasuk over there says in Shemot, Exodus chapter 21, when an ox gores a man or a woman, not one where other people are training this animal to do the goring. Now, an interesting point that we mentioned at the very last Mishnah in chapter 1, that certain animals are always muad, that they're assumed to be violent, they're not really trainable and domesticatable, like the wolves and the snakes and bears and things like this. But here it says shor ha'itzdin. This is a shor, like an ox, like an animal that's not normally violent, but they've trained it to be violent. So it does seem to me, and I'm not sure, that an animal that was inherently violent might still be chayev mita, get the death penalty for causing death, such as, pit bulls. Like Baruch Hashem, there's a lot of nice pet dogs out there, and the owners love their dogs, but a pit bull, L'man Hashem, it's probably should be listed in that Mishnah of Muad La'olam. Anyway, let's go on to Mishnah Hey. Shor shenaga katadam v'met muad mishalem Cofer. So an animal that gores or attacks a person and causes death. If the animal was muad, was warned, We're going to talk about how that can happen. It has to pay a Cofer. Now, Cofer means a ransom payment, basically. And the idea here is it's really caused not just damage, but it's caused death. So the value of the person who was killed by the animal needs to be compensated by the owner of the animal to the heirs of the deceased, God forbid. V'tam, if the animal hadn't been doing things like this before, pater min a Cofer, then the owner does not pay Cofer. V'zeh chayav and mita. And in any case, whether it's tam or muad, it is liable to the death. The court will put this animal to death. Now, it might be, when we're talking about muad, that this animal had killed someone and then, God forbid, escaped and then done it again 3 times, and that's a serious problem. Or perhaps it means, some of Farshim suggest, that it had been aggressive and violent without causing death 3 times. It was aggressive towards human beings, and then, we know it's an aggressive animal, again, like a pit bull, God forbid. And so then the 3rd time, of course, we know it should pay Cofer if it's been engaged in aggression before, even if it didn't cause death. The Mishnah adds, v'chen beben, v'chen bebat, even if the victim is a young boy or girl, not necessarily an adult. Nogach eved o amma, but if it actually killed an eved or amma, an eved kanani, notin shloshim solaim, they actually pay 30 shekels. That's what the Torah says. Ben shu yafem mea mana, even if this eved is worth 100 mana. Now, it could be he's, can work very hard. It could also be he's very skilled. Then the Gemara mentions an Evid could be trained to be nokev margoliot, to drill holes through delicate pearls or to cut diamonds, to make gems, to do things that are very advanced and skilled labor. But the Torah says shloshim shekel, even if it has this advanced training and he's really worth a lot of money. Ubenchu yafe ela dinner echad, even if it's only worth 1 dinner, which is just a quarter of a shekel, someone who really doesn't have a skill set at all, it still has to pay shloshim shekel because that's simply what the Torah says. Yashar kochachem tizkulu mitzvot.